Hello, and welcome to a video you have definitely not watched before, a full comparison between Gemini jets and next generation models. Before I begin my analysis, I would just like to point out that I may be a little biased. I only have Gemini 200s, as you can see here, no 1 to 400 Gemini jets, and I only have 1 to 400 scale NG models, as you can see along here. So my first-hand experience with these two companies is a little skewed, as my only experience with the Gemini jets is in the larger, more detailed, more expensive models, and my experience with NG models are the smaller, still very detailed, but still smaller models. Okay, so to just get straight into things here, let's start with our first category to discuss. This will be general model quality. This includes mold quality, paint quality, and general quality control issues. This is probably the subject that you know and hear about the most often and is the easiest to pick apart and actually rate. Starting with mold quality, both Gemini and NG have their strengths and weaknesses. Most, if not all, of NG models' aircraft molds can be very good overall. Apart from very minor issues like 737 noses being a little incorrect or some 787s having a bit of a forward rake, I would say that NG does extremely well in this category. On the flip side, this is probably where Gemini jets get some of the lowest ratings amongst collectors. Although their 737 MAX, 747, 757, and 767 molds are on point, a lot of others have some pretty big flaws. These include the humongous 777 landing gear, atrocious A320neo engines, and not forgetting the horrible wing flex in the E175s and A330s. They are redeemed a little bit by the stellar quality of these Gemini 200s over here, but I think that NG does do better in this section. Next up with paint, the companies are a little more evenly matched. Gemini is known for its constant issues with incorrect colors and paint jobs, like the very dark American livery, pinkish reds, and a lot of problems with paint overspray, as you can see right here on this WestJet Max, as well as paint chipping. Other than that, though, the details they put into their paintwork is astounding and clearly one of their best things that they do. NG models definitely have a better track record of paint, but they are not very far ahead of their rival. Most of their colors are correct, but are all very bright and vibrant compared to the real-life counterparts. Take this Singapore Airlines 787-10 here. It does look very, very pretty, obviously, but that gold stripe, I think, is a little too shiny and a little too gold, as you can see there. So, yeah, as I said, this does make them a little bit more unrealistic. I think it does actually add to the looks of the actual models themselves. So, it's not as big of a problem as what Gemini Jets is dealing with. Again, NG comes out on top for this one. Finally, we have QC. This is another huge loss for Gemini, being notorious for broken landing gear, detached engines, wings, V-stabs, H-stabs, and antenna. NG has had some occasional issues with this, looking back at some of their recent A321s, but other than that, you shouldn't need to worry about broken planes as much as NG. In this category overall, NG models takes the win. Just before we get into this next segment, I'd like to apologize about the focusing of some of these models. My camera seems to not really like it very much, focusing on these set objects, and then when I move my hands around, sometimes it gets all messed up and everything, So, just ignoring that, next I'm going to talk about variety. This includes the actual model variety, livery variety, as well as scale variety. Starting with model variety, Gemini has a little bit of an unfair upper hand on this. They have pretty much got a model for any modern commercial aircraft you could name, as well as countless classics. NG does, at this point in time, have far less actual different models to choose from, but I'm sure this will change in the future when the young company has the time to create new molds. So, as of now, Gemini Jets gets the win. Next, with livery variety, honestly, I could not choose between these companies. Both always come with very interesting airline liveries put onto their models, as you can see here by my very interesting assortment of different airlines. And they have a very big selection so basically both of them have a very big selection of different paint schemes from all around the globe. Now, this brings us to scale variety. NG models does mostly focus on its 1 to 400 lineup, as shown by here, but occasionally drops a smaller 1 to 200 aircraft, either a private jet like a Gulfstream or a CRJ 200. Gemini, on the other hand, has many more 1 to 200s to go along with its 1 to 400s, as you can see here. In fact, it seems like they put a lot more effort into the larger scale, leaving its 1 to 400 scale models with something to be desired. That's kind of the reason why I've only collected 1 to 200 Geminis for now, but that's another story for another time. So yeah, these 1 to 200 models are stunning, and I think they're unfairly lumped in with the poorer 1 to 400s. On top of this, Gemini also sometimes release 1 to 72 scale Cessna 172s, which I think is very interesting and unique. In this category, Gemini Jets edges out the competition. Now let's move on to pricing. This is kind of difficult to judge. Different stores across the world will have slightly different prices depending on sales, currency, and other factors. For example, I live in Canada, so all the prices will be a lot higher by default compared to the US dollar prices that these models are listed for, just because of the exchange rate in the different currencies. In general, though, NG models tends to be a few bucks more of your wallet, for 1 to 400s at least, than its American counterpart. So technically, Gemini would receive the win for this one. Now, for this next category, I'll be judging how the community generally thinks about this debate. Overwhelmingly, NG models tend to be praised as a superior manufacturer, while Gemini Jets is hated on heavily by most collectors. A glance into almost any forum, YouTube channel, or Instagram account owned by a model collector will, when asked, almost always tell you that NG is far greater than Gemini. That is just facts, and whether you agree or disagree, that's just how people are going to be, and that's just how it is. For the final category I want to talk about today, I'm going to bring up something that you might not always think about: brand recognition. For this, Gemini Jets absolutely destroys NG models. Anytime you see a video for a 1 to 400 scale airport, almost all the time, Gemini Jets is in the name. 1 to 400 scale, Gemini Jets Airport. Gemini Jets, like Washington Reagan, Washington Dulles, it's always in the title. A lot of channels themselves have Gemini Jets in the name, like the recently changed Gemini Jets 13. You don't have to be fully into modeling to know that Gemini Jets makes these awesome little models. The first brand that comes to mind when you hear 1 to 400 is Gemini Jets. Do you think that anyone other than real diehard collectors know the names NG Models, Phoenix, JC Wings, Aviation 400? No. All they know is Gemini Jets, and that puts Gemini Jets far, far, far ahead of NG just by default. Okay, so now for my final verdict. Who do I think is better? After a lot of thought, it's actually quite simple. Just let me put it this way. When I have some 1 to 400 models, as the swoop right here, with amazing quality, antennas are great size, those winglets are stunning, colors vibrant, the printing, I don't know if the camera will want to focus, but you can even read the hashtag Hamilton right under there, under the windscreen. And they're of the same, if not a little bit higher quality than some of these 1 to 200 $100 models that also come with complimentary paint scars there, and even have bent winglets. This winglet right here is a little bent, as you can see. When something that is literally under 10 centimeters long, or less than 3 inches long, I'm pretty sure, and it's the same quality, if not a higher quality, than this huge Air Canada back there, E330. It is so easy to choose my favorite. NG Models is definitely the superior model company. It's not very clear-cut, though. Gemini does excel in many ways that I just spoke about, but factoring in everything that I value most as a collector, NG ticks every single one of my boxes. Okay, so if you actually made it through all of that, here's some extra info about me as a collector. I started collecting models in mid-April of this year. I started getting a lot of Gemini Jets and 1 to 400 aircraft videos popping up in my YouTube feed from people like Aviation 18, CLT Aviation 13, which used to be Gemini Jets 13, and actually Redriveraviation as well, so thank you, you helped me get into modeling. After my first model got delivered to me back in the spring, I immediately knew I had to start a collection. And now I have a 10 jet collection strong, and I'm crossing my fingers for number 13. Alright, so, next. I've always been a Boeing guy for as long as I can remember. Recently, however, I have really grown fond of the A321neo, right here. I just, even though the nose is a little bit weird in the 1:200 mold, I just really like the green in the engines. I don't know if that's going to show up on camera. And just how, like, I love the wings, how it's just, they're just so perfect. I don't know how to describe it, but. So yeah, my current favorite aircraft, even though it's going against my previous opinions, my favorite now is the A321neo, but also just A321s in general. Last of all, the aircraft I would love to win for the giveaway. This is a very difficult decision. Every one of the models available are each so good on their own. I would honestly be happy with any of them. After a lot of thought, though, I think my favorite is definitely the Spirit A321. I mean, that 737 is looking nice, and I'd really love the 717, especially since they're going to get retired in the next few years, but that Spirit A321 is going to look so nice in the bright colors next to this little swoop here, so that's definitely going to be my favorite, but again, all of them are really great. So, yeah, you finally made it to the end of the video. Hopefully you thought that it was at least okay quality, and I hope you have a great day. So, later.